What up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Boondogglers. I'm Tarpit.
Yo, I'm Covingsworth.
Covingsworth. Okay, and we're going to bring one topic each per episode. So what's yours, Cov?
I wanted to talk about trapdoor spiders, which are crazy. I actually did not know what they were because we have them in Georgia, and they're really tiny, and they're black. They look like tarantulas, but they're not tarantulas. And I didn't think that the word trapdoor was like literally they make little homes with trapdoors that they can pull open, and it's like a little trapdoor. Grab the creatures, pull them in, and then pull the trapdoor on top of their heads. It's insane.
It's a trap base.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I think tarantulas, they're related. They have like they can do this thing with their butts where they like hit their butts and they spray these hairs up into the air, and they can get in your nose and frickin' fuck with you and stuff. It's crazy.
Have you seen a trapdoor spider?
Yeah, they're around here.
So
Yep.
I want you to go capture the trapdoor.
Well, that's basically the thing I don't know, because in Africa, their trapdoors are literally like this frickin' big, and you can like stick your hand down. There's a dude, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna show you these trapdoor spiders. He goes up and opens the door, and he like knocks on it, and it comes out. It's crazy. But I don't know if they make trapdoors here. I mean, I would assume they do, but I don't know.
Might be smaller. And they're trapping bugs, right?
Bugs, but the ones in Africa can trap like birds, I think.
Fuck that.
It's insane. They come out and they pull them down, and then you can see their arm come up and like close the door shut. It's insane.
So there's a lot of like animal kingdom architecture.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of doors.
Not a lot of doors. That's true. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that caught me off guard. You don't really see many doors.
That's kind of a whole another level. Like in Minecraft, the way you prove to the game engine that someone lives there is that it has a door.
Yeah.
Like that is like a machine in the house.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's strange when I think about it. There are like I'm trying to think of another animal that uses a door. Ants have some of the most complicated setups, and yet they don't have doors.
I'm curious about like the hinge. Like how does the door work? Is it just like a bird's nest flap that just bends?
I think it's like web and mud combined, and it's like a legit hinge. Like the dude, he went over and pulled it open, and it was, I mean, pivoting on a pretty strong hinge. It was crazy looking.
It's overly sick.
Yeah. And actually, that's what got me thinking about octopuses, because they are actually the one other creature that I saw. There's one that has a bottle. He gets in the bottle and he puts the bottle cap back on the plastic bottle.
So that's a reappropriated
You can
door,
see it on YouTube. Yeah, it's insane.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. Where is going back to the spiders, they're so tiny and their brains are so tiny. Where is the plan? Where's the blueprint for that door stored?
I don't know. They're just, and why did they evolve to know how to use a door? It seems like a really important, doors are like the most important thing for humans. Why isn't it equally as important to animals? I mean, I feel like tons of animals could use doors. Like chipmunks, they would make such good use of a door. Why don't they have doors? They don't have opposable thumbs. They can't craft anything.
Fingers and thumbs are a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I feel like I just want to jump to the biggest possible aspect of the question, which is how in the entire animal kingdom, including humans, how many classes of architecture are there? Just one?
Yeah, it's a good question.
How do you really differentiate the anthill from the skyscraper? And if aliens aren't talking to us because we're like ants to them, from their point of view, is there really no difference? I mean, are they just like, there are beings on this planet, they terraform their environment, gerbils do it.
Yeah.
octopuses do it, people do it. You know, certainly like a door. If you hadn't told me about this spider, then I might have posited a door as being that line or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that
yeah.
once you're in command of the lines between the exterior and the interior of your architecture, and you start making choices in between them, it's like a different scale. But man,
I mean, you almost can, because the trapdoor spider is pretty much the only one that builds it. Well, I don't want to say the only one, but it's the only one that I know of that builds it naturally, other than humans. So are
yeah,
humans
yeah,
and
yeah.
trapdoor spiders the only animals that naturally build doors out of natural material, or out of material that comes from them or that they manipulate?
I mean, it sounds about right. Sounds about right. There's a fish on Blue Planet, or maybe Blue Planet 2,
Oh, I love
that
Blue Planet.
has, yeah, yeah. So you've probably seen this fish, first observed fish using a tool.
Oh
And its
no.
tool is like, so it basically, it lives in this anemone, or maybe this piece of coral,
Uh-huh.
and it has like a sharp edge on the coral, and it'll go get clams, bring them back to its base, where then it
Oh.
whips its neck, and it repeatedly, moves the clam against the edge and breaks it open that way.
Is the edge, did it like break off a piece of the coral to make it sharp, or did it actually place, like, what's the edge? Where's it located?
Uh,
Is it just a
in the
sharp part
interior
of a
of the
coil?
coral, yeah, I do not think that the fish made the edge. The fish didn't
Mm.
like nap that edge for itself with
Right, but
another
it
rock.
utilizes the edge. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is like the same stage as these monkeys that open nuts with a particular type of rock and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that fish is one, and the monkey one too. I mean, they're both like a piece of technology that's in the at their base area
Right.
too. Like it's not just like you grab a stick and you put it in the anthill. It's like those monkeys, they get the nuts and then they bring them back to where they camp, and there's like a rock there that they've been using.
Yeah.
So that kind of seems like the next, you make your shit shack, but then you have like your crafting table in it and your furnace.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like,
Yeah, there's
man,
like a couple different stages. Like there's the first stage is just straight up using your body to kill or to, eat or whatever. And then using your body to capture something and then, hit it up against something that's already in nature. And then the third stage is actually getting something from nature, making it a tool, and then combining it with whatever else that you're capturing or, whatever, manipulating. But what I'm trying to think is that second stage, it brings me to the idea of the birds that'll pick up the sheep and stuff and drop them and throw them down onto like rocks and stuff like that. Like, where does that land? It's kind of like the fish,
right,
like
right. Or
dropping it
seagulls.
onto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seagulls will pick up a mollusk and they'll drop it on a rock. They'll drop it on bald people.
Oh, I didn't know that. They'll drop it.
Actually, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
No, it's
pretty
interesting,
hilarious.
man. I mean, I just feel strongly that it's almost like the whole history of science is, and I said this to Blade too. I forget what we were talking about, but it seems like when you look back on science, to me, it's just a series of realizations of that takes humans away from the center. We
Yeah.
used to think the sun revolved around the earth, and then it was this big moment to when Copernicus and folks before him too, but when Western science really had to embrace the fact that the earth goes around the sun, and that wasn't just a problem because it's new, it's a problem because it takes humans away from the center. Suddenly we're enslaved to this bigger body. And
Right.
then you realize, oh, our solar system isn't even it. It's just a tiny speck of dust in these waves of dust that are happening. So
Right. We become smaller and smaller the more we learn.
we just become, we come maybe not smaller to me, but farther from the center. We become situated in a system that's much freer and much more decentralized.
Yeah.
Even evolution does makes the same point. It's not like God made us to be different. We're a part of the same processes that create species. And man, it's hard for me to come anywhere near that line between us and ants, and between us and
Yeah.
at least when you're talking about like architecture as a field.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of, because the ants, I can name a ton of animals that will like go down, build tunnels, scrape out mud, caves. But what animals build up? I mean, I guess ants kind of build up. They can. There's like ant colonies that are kind of mountainous. But really, though, skyscrapers you don't really have a natural version of a skyscraper or even like a house. It's just all kind of in the earth.
Right. Maybe a bird's nest is some of the more vertical animal architecture.
Yeah. But even that's not even, it's not connected to the ground. It's not built on a foundation.
No, it's not. It's not. It's true.
I think there's got to be other animals that do that, though. I'm thinking ants have to. I've seen those Have you seen those giant African ant colonies that are like that's actually like a skyscraper? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
So ants are getting closer and closer to what we do.
It's interesting. You could look at almost all of our architecture and say it's phallic. And that's not coming out of nowhere, too. There's a lot of ancient structures that are just like a solid tower that does nothing but just like be a hard dick stretching to the sky. And definitely I think that there's kind of, that form is there. And I've always been interested in like, what are those, to extend the metaphor, what are those vaginal architectural forms?
Mm-hmm.
Because humans really, we don't do a ton of them, but they're really interesting. Like one is like the stepwell in India. This is something that I researched a lot and I put him in Animist. It's a type of structure, if you've never seen it, where they dig down to the water table. It's like an inverted step pyramid. And basically no matter how dry it is, all you have to do is walk further down the stairs to get to a place where there's water. So imagine a well, but instead of a straight shaft, it's
like an upside down pyramid.
Exactly, and you just walk down to the water.
I've never seen that. I don't know how I've never seen that.
It's one of the bitchinest forms of ruins in the world, and
where is that in Animist? Is there an actual structure in Animist in the New World that's like that?
In the New World, let me think. Vaguely in the New World, in World 1, quite directly, basically.
Yeah, World 1 I didn't get to explore quite as much.
We'll throw up an image on the podcast of a stepwell. It's like nothing you've ever seen, and it makes me realize that, yeah, you're right. The meta for Animal Kingdom architecture is negative space, scooping out, and
tunneling.
Even a bird's nest, right? Even a bird's nest, it gets built from scratch, but you end up with this kind of depression that you sink inside of. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of modern non-phallic architecture forms. Maybe like a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like any tunnel system, any subway system, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. I think it just comes down to, I'm just trying to think about how another animal would go about like stacking dirt, which is what the ants do, is kind of like the closest thing. But without the thumbs, you just I can't even you can't bind anything together. Like even the, earliest human stuff, it was just binding upright branches together.
It's big baskets basically.
Yeah, and you cannot do that without thumbs. And I'm surprised more animals don't have thumbs.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Once you get thumbs, you hunt all other animals to extinction.
Yeah, true. That's why there aren't any other animals with thumbs.
That's funny. I was thinking about a beaver dam. It's basically just a big bird's nest.
True. Yeah. Yeah, but, beaver dam is actually interesting.
They're kind of, bird's nests and beaver dams, they are kind of just really loose baskets.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like a basket is just like a beaver dam that was made so cleanly that you only need one layer of sticks to stick into each other and not like a bunch.
Yeah, true. And like a bird's nest is more weaving than a beaver dam, but there's still some weaving going on in a beaver dam. Sticks going cross and whatever. And weaving is actually something I can imagine would be possible without thumbs, because you can just place things on top of each other and then zigzag them and place them on top of each other.
Yeah, just because friction happens.
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
So weaving. Birds
Weaving
weave.
might be. Yeah.
Oh, spiders, trapdoor spider. I'm pretty sure it. I mean, well, it's not the same kind of weaving, but yeah.
It's weaving. That's the word for it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the word for it. You look at a spider's web. I mean, that's a very loose textile.
Yeah.
Very small, very loose net.
It's like a flat basket. Now that may have been a stretch.
I mean, it's only a stretch if you can actually point to a dividing line between a basket and a spider's web.
Yeah.
And
like if I picture a basket and I flatten it, I mean, it kind of looks like a spider's web. Like it actually looks exactly like a spider's web.
I mean, yeah. So let me try and fail to draw a line between a basket and a spider's web.
All right.
I think one difference is that, I mean, I'm just failing. The plan for the basket is consciously comprehended by the weaver and is taught from parent to child. And you can even learn multiple forms of baskets or evolve basket making within a single lifetime just from conscious learning. It seems like a spider's web. My only guess is that it just feels good to the spider.
Yeah, it's in its DNA. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if baskets are in humans' DNA. In a way, I guess it could. But the spider, it just knows it, it doesn't learn it. Well, I mean, it kind of learns it, but it's still in its DNA.
So how many generations does it take to go from an idea to an instinct?
Yeah. Right.
Because what I want to believe is that as humans, we have ideas. We certainly also have instincts. And what I want to believe is that we have access to the instincts as well. Like you can bring your conscious awareness all the way down to your reptile brain, certainly, I think, with practice.
Right.
So I want to believe that there's really no that it's hard to draw that line, but I think most people would say, oh, there's an obvious line there between a basket that you sketched out and you decided to put a happy face into the weaving pattern and then you executed it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It might just feel good to people to evolve our ideas.
I think it does.
And man, it fucked me up when I learned that it was like 2.5 million years of hand axe tech.
Yeah.
Before we even put a handle on an axe.
What, 2.5 million years?
Million, stretching back before Homo sapien.
Jeez. We were stupid.
Dude, everybody trips out on how fast exponential growth explodes and how, how suddenly we hit the Industrial Revolution and then even more suddenly the digital, and we're going to hit the singularity. It's going to be insane.
Right.
The other side of that speed is how slowly it starts.
Like, yeah.
Exponential graphs do this.
Like as soon as they got that handle on the axe, it was just probably a huge explosion. Yeah.
But we tend to think about humans as like kind of being animals like 20,000 years ago, like pre-agriculture. But it's like, no, I kind of feel like those millions of years, somewhere in there, tech can sublimate to the level of instinct. I do think.
Yeah.
It's longer than people realize. Before I was researching that drawing I did early this year, I didn't even know that anybody who wasn't Homo sapien made tools. But yeah, we're just the skin on the apple of like tool making, culture having primates.
Yeah. And then why? So this was actually the original question that I had going into the stream, and what I, is kind of evolving into is why aren't more animals more? There's not even I want to say OP, but that's not even the right word, but well, it kind of is the right word. Like octopuses, how come they can, and what is it, iguanas? Can iguanas? No, chameleons, sorry. They can camouflage themselves with their surroundings. Why is there, that seems like the most OP skill. or I don't know, I don't even know if it's a skill, but how come they can do that and other animals aren't showing as impressive like evolution traits? Like, how is that even possible that they had probably the same amount of time as a lot of other creatures, and yet you know, they're on a whole other level, and yet still on the top of the food chain?
Yeah.
Like, camouflaging yourself with your environment, that's unlike, it's just on a whole other level.
It seems like all prey animals should have that tech by
Right,
now.
right. Like, how did
Yeah.
how did an octopus get it? Crazy.
I think that it's very easy to misunderstand evolution as a process that creates perfect adaptations, when the real truth is that if something works well enough, it'll get passed on.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to work as well as we can imagine it would. It only needs to get you to the point where you fuck, and it
Right.
will get passed on. It will
Right.
get passed on.
Right.
So like an example would be like anxiety in humans. Like, I feel like we're at a point where it hurts the species more than it helps, and yet it still works well enough to get you out of the house, get you dating,
True.
get you wanting to have someone to take care of you when you're young, so you have kids and the species does its thing. I can imagine mental modes for humanity that are much more in line with, you know, the tranquility of nature and our place in it. But instead, we're kind of constantly stressed out and, you know, introducing inefficiencies due to our own haste and our own worry. But it works more than well enough to keep the species going, so there's no pressure on it to leave
Right.
the system.
Like, what would
So, like,
require what would even would anxiety even ever make its way out of the human, I don't know, DNA?
well, that's my point. Not without pressure on it to do so. It
Right.
would only make it out to the extent where there's people who are so anxious that they will never fuck.
Right.
Outside of that, there's no pressure on it to leave.
Right.
So if a chameleon is surviving over here fantastically, and a rat over here is surviving just barely enough to fuck 6 months into its life and then it dies, Darwinism, there's no mechanic in Darwinism that says, oh, the chameleon's tech is so insane, we need to apply that tech everywhere.
Yeah.
All Darwin says is, you know, did you fuck, basically.
That's actually got me thinking, you know, like the rat, for example, not, well, depending on how you look at it, but not super, what evolutionized? What even is the word? Evolved? Okay, evolved. It's not even that like complicated of an animal. It looks a lot like any other animal. It's whatever, at 4 legs, it's a rat. And it gets by, and so it hasn't really, I'm assuming, really needed to evolve some sort of complicated trait to help it survive or anything. But maybe the octopus, you know, went through so much shit. Maybe the more shit you go through as a species, the more complicated and crazy you become.
That's interesting.
Like, what did the octopus have to go through to get frickin' camouflage? That the rat was like, no, we don't need camouflage because we're doing fine.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, the harder it is to survive, the faster evolution will choose traits.
Yeah.
Now here's another side of it. We think of highly evolved animals as I mean, evolution is change. So a highly evolved animal kind of sounds like an animal that's changed a lot and arrived at a state which is very different from even recent states. But maybe another way to look at it as well, you take a crocodile that hasn't needed to change in millions and dumb millions of years. And, you know, that speaks to a certain level of, if not evolution, sophistication.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like needing to change is not necessarily a good look when you have a shark that's had been the same shape throughout, you know, so many different biomes coming in the planet, so many different eras,
right?
So many different threats.
Yep. I mean, a shark is like one of the oldest. I mean, sharks have had the longest time to evolve beyond pretty much, I mean, everything. I mean, sharks are like the oldest freaking creatures in the world, so it would make sense that they've been the same. Maybe octopuses are like relatively new compared to sharks. I mean, I have no idea.
No, I'm sure you're right. I don't think there's very few things that are as unchanged as sharks, I think.
Yeah. A shark kind of looks like a rat. Think about it.
You got all your senses bundled up in the front on like a snout,
Yeah.
stalk point situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Sharks are just freaking rats with, rats are freaking sharks with fur and whatever. They haven't needed to change forever. I bet rats are older than mostly anything too. I mean, it's a rat.
So, how do you see humanity's evolution now? I have a take on it. A lot of people say that our evolution has stopped.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, no, we're going to look very different in 1,000, 10,000 years. How do you frame our relationship with it?
Yeah, I don't think that we've had time to see, like, I don't think there's any evidence that any of us can refer to that we can say that humans are done evolving. Because, I mean, just the sheer amount of time that it took, for example, the sharks have been around for frickin' just hundreds of millions of years. And am I so wrong about that, by the way?
Maybe not hundreds, but definitely dinosaur times, for sure. It wasn't the same species, but it was the same shape, same
right
concept. Yeah.
And humans have not been around for that long, and even thinking back 10,000 years for humans, still wouldn't even be that much time to see like a huge evolutionary change. So I think totally there's time for. I think we're still definitely evolving, but we're so comfortable. There's not really we're not being pushed to evolve. Yeah. So actually, now that I think about it, I mean, our evolution maybe just slowed down so much. I'm trying to think of something that we would where we're being pushed. I think any evolution would be done to us by us, like some sort of biological change on ourselves. I think that's probably where we're going to see the most change in our biological makeup.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you?
The way I see it is that our minds and our ideas, the way I see it is that ideas evolve just like species, but faster. Ideas can be born and replicate and mutate thousands of generations, even just in one individual's lifetime.
Sure.
So once humanity gave birth to this new, faster form of evolution, the older form stopped, basically, for us. Mm-hmm. And that evolutionary energy moved into the sphere of ideas.
Yeah.
Which moves way, way faster. And I think I think it's the same process. It's the same process of reproduction, mutation, and evolution. But because it happens so much faster, it almost immediately eliminates the pressures that kill off the weak in nature.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. It's not necessarily full circle, but it'll only feed back on our biology to the point where our ideas are intentionally doing that, and we're starting to get there.
Right. Yeah.
To get there for sure. Like
you were saying, it would be so insane, and if you could just take if you could take a pill and it would just supplement everything that your body needs mm-hmm. in terms of nutrients, mm-hmm. That would be, it's not really evolution, but in a way, I mean, we would evolve to that. And I think it's definitely possible. I mean, there's I can totally see that being happening. Just having that little pill.
Totally. And that's not a small thing, because once we started cooking our food, that meant that we didn't have to sit there chewing it. It meant that we got energy from our food fast.
Right.
Like a gorilla has to chew grass and just sit there breaking it down. It spends all of its time getting nutrients.
Yeah.
Once we cooked food, we could be fed in a half hour and go on to whatever else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, certainly for me, if my meals became a pill, it would increase my skill acquisition time every day and in my entire life.
And I was about to say maybe like the jaw our mouths, we wouldn't need our mouths, but we still have to talk. But let's think about it. Let's think like way far in the future where, we're not even using our mouths for communication.
The thing is, not using something is not enough reason for it to get selected out of the genome.
Oh, you don't think?
No, things that will evolve away are things that prevent people from fucking. Nothing else. If we all had like gills that didn't work from when we were in the ocean, but nothing got caught in the gills.
Right. There's no pressure on. Right.
There's literally nothing stopping you from fucking. So it will.
Well, I don't know, because I'm just thinking, if let's just say that in however many years let's just say that humans aren't going to use their mouths anymore for communication or for breaking down food. Yeah. I think that just like a muscle, it would atrophy, a muscle atrophies and it goes away. I think that it would evolve in that way. And we eventually would evolve out of our mouth. Well, I mean, like we wouldn't need it just because there's not necessarily a pressure on it. If it's like literally not being used for, millions of years, thousands of years.
Yeah. Well, atrophy is not the same as deselection. Like atrophy means like if nobody used their pinky anymore, everyone's pinkies would get weak over the course of their life.
Right.
But if your genome has a pinky in it and you have a kid, there is no mechanic in genetics that says, oh, Doug didn't use his pinky, so his kid doesn't need one.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, let me fuck up the game. Have you ever heard of epigenetics?
Nope.
Nope. Epigenetics. It's a new field. It's in the textbooks. It's not woo-woo.
Mm-hmm.
But it literally goes against everything I've been arguing so far. It goes against all the classical versions of or understandings of Darwinism, and it basically says that yes, within our lifetimes, our experiences do imprint on our genome. Here's the classic epigenetical demonstration: is you take a rat.
Oh, the rat thing. Yeah. Right. I know what you're talking about now.
Pain with lemon, and then that rat's grandkid will flinch at the smell of lemon, even if it never met its grandparent.
Yeah.
And so that has crazy implications because it's really dangerous because it kind of dovetails with the way that people typically misunderstand Darwinism.
Yeah.
So it's like scientists since Darwin have been arguing against that and being like, no, if you stretched your neck your whole life, your kid's neck wouldn't be any longer. Except that epigenetics is saying, well, it seems like trauma can imprint directly on the genome, which when you apply that to human populations is just mind-boggling.
Right, but is it actually physical though? Because let's say with the rat, if you cut off a rat's back right leg for 1,000 years in a certain rat family, would eventually the rat would the children not have a back right leg? Like your epigenetics, we're talking about mental, but that wouldn't necessarily affect your physical state.
That's true, but the rat grandchild inherited that mental without being raised by that parent.
Right. But it does not. Does epigenetics? It's not just
mental; it's neurological at that point.
Right, but does epigenetics? Right. Does it say anything about physical change though, or it just literally has nothing to do with physical change?
I can certainly say that your leg experiment would not work.
Yeah.
Even over 10 million generations in a supercomputer, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
But I think that you could cut off the leg of a rat, while playing Bon Jovi and get all those rat's descendants to not like Bon Jovi, and that's really gnarly.
Right, that is crazy. I mean, it explains if it's true. I mean, you're saying it's true, right? It's not like some woo-woo shit.
Well, it's demonstrated in mammals. It could be a drop in the human bucket. I mean, it could have no effect on us, or it could mean that as a third generation Holocaust survivor, you could even see that in my brain with a supercomputer.
Yeah, man. I mean, it would
know
explain it would explain so much depression. I mean, like for me, I don't know if this is the same thing. It's probably not the same thing, but you know, we've had OCD in my family for definitely my dad's dad, and now I have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's. I mean, that may not be epigenetics. I don't really know much about that, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah, I think no one does. I think it blurs up the question. Like maybe your grandfather had, you know, neurological OCD and experienced it so profoundly that he rewired his genome to pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think all of that is what we really don't know. But it seems more complicated than even 10 years ago we would have guessed, because epigenetics, from what I understand, is new.
Yeah.
New, but confirmed science.
Yeah, that's like the craziest. I mean, it totally makes sense though. It's something that I wouldn't doubt because it makes sense. I mean, you can inherit all sorts of. But well, actually, the thing I don't know is, well, I guess we just explained that. But what's the difference between how does it differentiate between inheriting like a mental disease or you know, a mental whatever problem versus, you know, something that's not necessarily classified as a problem. It's just more of like you're scared of lemons because your grandfather was scared of lemons.
Right.
Like what's the difference there?
Right. So here's something I don't know. You can test your genetics and test them against your partner. So you can say, okay, when you put our genomes together, there's a very low chance of our kid having cerebral palsy. There's actually, oh no, there's a high chance of them having Down syndrome. Let's reconsider getting pregnant or whatever. Right. You can do that. This is a question that I bet my sister could answer. I maybe I'll ask her. Do any of those exist for psych?
Yeah.
Do you ever say to a couple, we ran your genomes and it looks like manic depression is you know, going to be sadly likely? My guess is no, but I'm curious. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. Does epigenetics even account for would Down syndrome fall into that epigenetics category?
No. Down syndrome would fall into, you know, just an inherited genomic deficiency that gets passed from parent to child in the old way.
So I wonder if OCD. I wonder which side OCD falls onto.
Right. Can you see OCD in someone's genes?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I actually do really want to know about that. That's insane.
Now, if we're assuming it's true and we're assuming it exists in mammals at least, it does seem like a pretty good idea, right? If let's say one animal, so let's say epigenetics didn't exist in the animal kingdom, and whatever you experience in your life has no effect on your genome, which is Darwinism, classically.
Right.
And then one rat mutated the ability to imprint on their own genome throughout their life. You could see that trait getting passed on. That's a faster way to accumulate knowledge and a faster way to develop instincts. Like that rat's grandkid would do well to avoid lemons. You know what I mean? Especially if it's in the same lab.
Yeah.
So it does seem like something that would spread throughout the animal kingdom, even if it itself was a mutation, because, you can just collect info faster that way.
Yeah. Man, super crazy stuff. That's honestly, if I were to get, like, I'm not like the biggest science. I liked biology, but didn't really, I'm not the biggest. I liked English more. I liked history more. I didn't really like science that much. But if I were to go into a science, maybe epigenetics, because that's like a new frontier.
It seems like it is. It seems like
you would be discovering stuff that no one else has discovered before.
Yeah. What I need is like science for poets, which I get from YouTube, which is just like, give me like beautiful facts. Don't ask me to synthesize them. Don't ask me to like come up with the right answer, but just like, I just want to like,
totally
just learn like shitty versions of what like specialists are actually putting together.
Yeah. I mean, that's why YouTube is so awesome, because like if a classroom was organized like a fun YouTube video, can you imagine? I actually had some teachers that were kind of like that. But recently, I didn't really understand like the start to finish why the war in the Middle East is so insane and like why the United States fucked up so much. I didn't really understand the timeline. And there's a 10-minute YouTube video that's like animations and map and names and funny pop-ups and the guy's funny. And it's like, I just got it instantly.
Totally.
And if a classroom was like that, it'd be so cool.
Totally.
I would have loved school way more.
Yeah, I feel you. I think that something happens in your brain when you're the one that clicked on that video.
Yeah.
Like, I think that video getting shown to 30 youths by a teacher probably would not have hit so hard.
That's true.
It's like when you direct your own education, using your own interests, it's just another tier of fun. So as an educator, how does one leverage that? How do you get your students to process what you need them to?
Just be a cool teacher.
Yeah.
Like seriously, just be friends with the students.
And let them choose as much as you possibly can while you're getting through to them what needs to get got through.
Yeah.
Like I had some cool teachers where it was like, bad example, I don't know, it's like in a music class, everything we learn is like Bach through Beethoven, and that's what the class is about. Then it's time to write an essay, and I'm like, I want to do Tupac. And there's one teacher that's like, no, that's not what we're doing here. And another teacher's like, okay, it has to be a good paper.
Yeah. Totally.
But
was your school like flexible like that? My school was it wasn't flexible in that way, but we had like group discussions where we kind of led the discussions and stuff in English class. It wasn't really him, our teacher, intervening. It was like, all right, guys, go in a circle, boom, talk about the book. Was your school kind of like that, or?
Yeah, I'd say teacher to teacher. It varied because I was. Were you in public your whole life?
So I was in public. No, I didn't go to private. It was a charter. So the cool school it was like half cool, half like military shit, which is kind of weird. But that was a charter school. So pulled my name out of a hat out of frickin' thousands of people in my city. Got ridiculously lucky because I had dropped out of 6th grade at that point because of my OCD.
Wow.
And so it was just like, I'm out of school, I don't know. And then I got into the charter school and there were like 16 people in my class and literally saved me.
And that was at high school?
That was high school. Or that was 7th grade to 11th.
And so, gotcha. And so was that school, you were saying you had some cool teachers that kind of allowed for some self-directed learning and stuff. Was that kind of the philosophy of the whole place?
Yeah, that was the philosophy of the whole place, yeah. Yeah. And all the classes kind of like warped into each other. Like in English class, we would talk about a book that we would go into the history of in history class. And in music, we'd talk about the music of the era of the book that we were reading. So it kind of like, because it was just such a small environment that was possible. Right. So yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was awesome up until the point where I was bored and got a little bit too military schooly. And
what do you mean military?
Well, but the principal and the person who started the school were both colonels. And all the teachers were super cool and young. Like my history teacher in 7th grade was freaking 20 years old and super cool. And then after about 2 years, because the school, I went to the school the first year that the school opened. And then eventually, like, they had the crackdown on all the teachers, and it just like got not quite as fun, which was unfortunate because I learned the best when it was the most fun. So I don't know. They were almost perfect.
Totally. The founder of that very special summer camp I went to, which was the epitome of that self-directed style. His quote is something along the lines of, where there is interest, education happens.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Like folks don't not learn. They're just going to learn what they're interested in, and
yeah.
And even the kid, totally disadvantaged, raised by a single parent in the inner city, who drops out of like a shitty public school, in my opinion, the data encoded in that person's brain is like no less. There's literally the exact same number of pixels and bits of data.
Right.
You know, they're just encoding information about the streets,
Right.
you know, about the job they had to get, or about, you know, the you know, actually about drugs and about whatever it was that tore their situation apart. And,
Yeah.
you know, whatever needs to get learned will get learned. The downside to that is that, you know, like this is what happened with me. Is like, if you let your kid do that, you know, there's just a chance that they'll be interested in something that doesn't make money.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty funny. Well, I mean,
still worth it.
Yeah, like I took this political compass test that I sent to you, and
I took it.
oh yeah, you did take it. I think we got like the same coordinates, which is insane. I don't know how reliable that thing is, but whatever. One of the questions was, do you think that schools should just be organized to set people up for jobs?
Right.
And I answered, you know, strongly disagree.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that a society is, well, a society would be more efficient, but I don't think efficiency is the best way for, like, what's that book by, you've probably read it. It's not 1984. Brave New World. Have you read Brave New World?
No.
Yeah, so it's like if a society is at the most amount of efficiency possible, and it's just terrible. And that's why I'm always thinking, you know, the most efficient way to go about something, and I'm naturally inclined to do something super efficiently, is not the best way. But I think you're not inclined to do things super efficiently.
Well,
because you're more creative than I am.
What I want to say is that I think that there's efficiency in different timescales.
True.
So if not working on music 9 days in a row means that on the 10th day I'm going to make something I love, that's more efficient than just banging my head against the wall for 11 days and getting sick of it and never making something I like.
Yeah.
And I think humanity is like that too. Letting your children play and letting them ignore survival efficiency might be the most efficient way to solving grand problems on a century or a 2 centuries type of time scale.
Yeah.
Like I think that often what's efficient in the short term actually creates inefficiencies in the long term.
Yeah, that's true. There are definitely two or multiple kinds of efficiency.
You know, sometimes a certain amount of disorganization, of chaos, can be used as a tool. And I think that's me. I am focused on efficiency and I'm focused on productivity. But I'm pretty convinced that like a lot of fucking around, a lot of rest, a lot of play, and maybe even a lot of procrastination,
yeah,
for me is sometimes like the fastest route towards what I'm trying to do. And I think that could be true for us on the level. Like if we're raising a society of like compassionate, you know, conscious children, you know, maybe none of them wants to work in a factory. And that speaks to a certain type of inefficiency, but
that is really interesting. I have not thought of, because that's a totally alternate version of efficiency that, you know, I've thought about. And I think that that's not the kind of efficiency that they're talking about in the book. But I like your version of efficiency, and I haven't thought about it that way. And that actually makes me feel better about, you know, procrastinating. And although I'm a bad procrastinator, I shouldn't procrastinate, but it makes me feel better about balancing work and play.
I'll give another example. A good boss, if one of their employees visibly needs a mental health day, like they're not even sick, they're just frazzled, they're not working at their best, there's a version of efficiency where you get every hour of work today from that worker because they're here. You know, they already took the time to get here, you've already trained them,
right?
it is a good boss that says, go home. Actually, take tomorrow off.
Yeah.
I'll see you on Thursday, and you better be stoked to be here.
Yeah.
Like, that's efficient. Like,
I want to
that's
put a
just
name
efficient
on
a
it.
slightly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, I think
It's like,
maybe we could differentiate it by like human efficiency and like mechanical efficiency. Because I think the book is humans being too mechanically efficient.
yeah.
Brave New World, that is. And I think what you're talking about, we could call like human efficiency, which is, you know, ultimately a better way for us to be efficient because it's more, you know, whatever, organic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that like just looking at amounts of time, like you can fix so many problems by expanding the amount of time you're looking at once.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking about making money in a year versus 100 years, like
Yeah.
both are capitalism, both are greed. One tears the planet apart less.
Totally. Totally.
And
Yeah.
therefore is a type of efficient that, you know, we need to be cultivating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking now, I wonder, because all right, let's say the hospitals during COVID, for example, like the nurses and doctors are working frickin' 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
They cannot have a day off at all. That's like maximum mechanical efficiency. Would it, but that's kind of, is that necessary? Would it be more efficient to let those people have a break? But it's like, it's such a dire situation. They kind of have to be mechanically efficient, or else people are just going to start dropping dead.
Totally. I mean, there's circumstances where it is most efficient to burn your candle at both ends right now. You know, I'm going to need a week to recover and do nothing else. But we're in a special moment where if we don't handle this, it'll get worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely where we're at here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's easy to say this from a chair, but the real truth is that if you zoom out, you can say that reducing our short-term efficiency mindset would have potentially, you know, gone a long way to preventing the pandemic or keeping it from spiraling out of control.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, our like globalized capitalistic trade network, you know, the fact that even the surgical masks we wear get made in China and then get shipped over here. I mean, our whole system, you know, could have taken a breather and thought to ourselves, okay, how do we make this more, like you said, have more human?
Yeah.
How do we think about these supply chains and not just build a house of cards? Because you know, we're just racing to grow as fast as possible this whole century. And
balancing that short-term efficiency and the long-term efficiency is tough. And personally, I would like to learn how to balance it more now that I think about it. Because it would be nice to, you know in my head, okay, right now it's okay to not frickin' have to use short-term efficiency right now. I don't have to brute force this.
Right.
Sometimes you can't see which one is the best to use in that moment.
Right. And to be honest, I think you and I are both extremely lucky for enjoying life a lot and for having fun producing stuff.
Totally.
Because I think what that means is that you and I we're not as much of a danger of getting burnt out.
Yeah.
Like you could be burnt out and take one day off and then come back and be like, let's fucking move a mountain.
Yeah.
So I think for you and me, you know, pushing and grinding is, you know, maybe like obviously like I'm a worse boss to myself than I would be if I had a team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Because I know that I'm not going to get discouraged.
Yeah. Right.
It's fun. You know, what I'm doing is fun to me no matter what it is.
Right.
So you got to know yourself, and you gotta learn your own tolerances, how much to push yourself to. I feel like.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think you're a better example of that than I am, because you're 11 years older than me. You've had to work and get jobs, and like I'm just now approaching the age where I would need to get a job, and even still, I'm in a lucky position where I'm not even thinking about getting a job and working for someone else. So I'm kind of just like in that position because I'm just lucky in my position. But you really have to, like, you actually have to live that mentality and allow yourself, even though you have to work and, you know, fight for, you know, whatever you're living. You're blanking.
True, but not till I graduated undergrad. So
Right.
you have like 3 more years. Like I was where I was where you were when I was 19. I was only expected to learn and play.
Mm-hmm.
I had jobs in college, but they weren't rough. I worked at a video store like a couple hours a week. It wasn't what you're talking about.
But now
So
you still
definitely-
allow yourself that time to work and play. You still allow yourself to have play, rather. And
That's
you're in a
right.
position where I don't know how to describe it. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to put it in the words.
Yeah, I kind of do, except that I think in 2 or 3 years, you know, we have no idea what your situation is going to be like. So the timeline could actually line up quite a bit. Because
Yeah.
I feel like I was in full 100% play child mode through college, and that's
Mhm.
the value of college, I think, is
Mhm.
you know, getting to extend that pure learning time a little bit.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, do you want to talk about your topic?
How long have we been going?
I have no idea. I actually have no idea.
56. I think my topic should go next week.
Okay. Perfect. Well, Jelly is our alarm clock.
Yeah, Jelly's fucking angry at children playing.
Yeah. Hey,
Me too,
Jelly.
me too. I'll bring her on screen for 10 seconds.
Yeah, bring her up here. Oh.
Is this my Alinity moment?
Yeah, don't throw her. I don't even think you could throw her.
Not with my back right now.
Oh yeah, you fucked up your back. Yeah, as long as you don't feed your dog alcohol or throw it, you should be fine.
She yeeted the cat.
Yeah.
Oh man, this was hella fun.
Yeah, this was super fun. I don't even know how to end it. Thanks for watching.
Thank you guys for listening. Twitch.tv/Tarpit. Search Covingsworth on YouTube. This has been Boondogglers episode 1, and we'll be back in a week for no reason.
Hell yeah. All right, thanks for watching, guys.
Peace.